Peace. What's going on, everybody? It's your man Devious Ahmad coming to you on another Devious Tuesday. I know it's a little bit later, and I'm still talking about which hour. But now it just seems that the world is opening back up. I may need to do it a little bit earlier, so I'm not sure yet. But we'll see by the end of the cast how many people come, and if it's more comfortable for people to do it late at night. Because again, excuse me, I'm trying to do it later so that people can get their kids to bed and get their day out of the way and kind of relax and things like that. But I want to say early on, get this out the way. There are a few people who have birthdays. I want to say happy birthday to Erica. Happy birthday. I want to say to my cousin, happy belated. She's passed, and it's been a number of years since she's been gone. But actually, I don't want to say happy birthday to her. I want to say I love you to my family. I'll say that instead. And to Omi Sanya, I want to say happy birthday. I know we're overdue. We are overdue for a spa day. And a couple of my friends lost their parents. I don't want to get into doing a whole bunch of condolences, but I do want to say to my seamstress, Mahogany Brown, of course, your family will be in my thoughts and prayers, and to the McCullum family, and to my friend Rachel. So be mindful, be kind. Everybody, when you're out, be kind, be considerate to everyone, because you never know what's going to happen. So I want to talk about, I hope y'all don't hate me for this, because I don't know where it's going to go. That's why I'm saying that. What's up, Kit Kat? What's up, Nunu? I really have no idea where this is going to go. So, I want to talk about real power. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I want to talk about power. I'm not talking about the show power. I'm talking about real power. Where does real power lie? Like on this planet, who has power? Like who has the power to change the face of the planet as we see it? And I'm not just talking about political power. I'm not just talking about that type of power. I'm talking about the type of power that's real power, the power that changes. Hey, Yvonne, the power that will change the world. Where does that power lie? Does anyone know? Maybe we can start at the beginning. Sound good? Benny Roman, what's going on? We're going to start at the beginning. Power. Where does power lie? Where do we begin? I'm not talking about the human race, because I don't know. You don't know. For sure. We have a lot of theories. Where does power, where do you begin? Just the person who is watching this right now, be it on your computer or on your phone, however you're watching this, where did you begin? We'll begin there. Where did you begin? You began at birth or conception, whichever one you want to play with. I'm not going to do that. There is nobody who's come into existence on this planet, arguably, outside of a woman. And a friend of mine and I were having a conversation. There's a lot of these topics come from. And he said something to me. Little context. First of all, if you have not seen Hollywood on Netflix, you need to see Hollywood on Netflix. Do yourself a favor. Beautifully done movie series. And if you're going to watch that and you have Amazon Prime, you might want to watch a documentary about a guy called Scotty Bowers. Yeah, Nunu. It's not for the faint of heart. You need to hold still constitution to watch this situation. I will warn you, particularly for those of you, if you might be male and consider yourself heterosexual, you really might need a whole new type of constitution. But if you are a history buff, I guarantee you that it is worth it. Not because it is historically correct, but because it gives a whole new perspective to what we now know is history, or to what we now call history. So, to that end, Hollywood is a reimagining of the gas station in Hollywood, where a man named Scotty Bowers came to be basically a prostitute. He prostituted at the gas station, and he hooked his friends up as prostitutes to work at this gas station. Now, the thing with this gas station was a lot of stars, because it was in Hollywood. So a lot of stars came through this gas station. And the amount of, hey, Tamara, what they talk about, what is not really said. Because there's a lot said about power. There's a lot where they talk about the power in the film industry. And if anybody who's paying attention to anything that's going on, there are a lot of things going around about what it is that, because, you know, with what's going on in the world right now, there are a whole bunch of conspiracy theories, and people, you know, when you talk about people who control media and things like that, you get to a point where and I'm not, my recollection of this type of specificity isn't up to where it needs to be. So, but you can Google this. Everybody's walking around with a computer in their pocket. You can Google anything that I'm saying and get more accurate information than I'm giving you here right now. And I encourage you to. So there is law that provides for the government to use media, film studios, production companies. They can use all of these things to influence the thinking of people. So if they want a more congenial attitude in a general atmosphere or general society, they can petition movie studios and things like that to create content that gives that general well-being, and vice versa. So if the overall good feeling isn't coming out of the movie theater, there is always the thought that it is coming from the government, because the government has that type of, they can do that. They have that access. I'll say, I'm not saying that they are doing it. I'm not saying that it's something that, you know, is always done in every movie, because I don't know. I'm just saying that it's something that they have access to do. There are people, and I don't know these names, but if you ever watch The Big Bang Theory, the guy who plays Sheldon, and if you know his name, you can put it in the comments, and I'll, you know, let everybody else know who's watching. If this guy don't get every single award there is to give somebody who is on the screen and does this thing called acting, he needs to get every single award. He portrays this character, and this was a real life character, again, reimagined, who had a lot of power in Hollywood. He was an agent for a lot of stars, and he was, in this movie, he became the agent for Rock Hudson, who in real life was a gay man, but he lived his life as a straight man because Hollywood at the time wouldn't allow him to be who he was. Well, in this series, he is who he was, and the producer takes it to the point he gives him a black boyfriend, and they go to the Oscars, sweep the Oscars for everything. His boyfriend was the writer of the first film that he was in this movie, in this series. Writer of the first series that he's in. And they sweep the Oscars, and they go to the Oscars hand in hand, kissing ad infinitum. Listen, totally stuff that we know could not have happened. It's nice to look at it and go, yeah, that would have been nice. But the character played by the guy from The Big Bang does an excellent job. Now, this character is they don't, what do they say the years, like the 50s, somewhere around in there. At that time, if you were a homosexual, you could be thrown in jail. The best case scenario was they would chase you down the street. A mob might chase you down the street, call you names. That was the best case scenario that you could hope for if a situation arose. Beyond that, if the mob caught up with you, they beat you up. Hopefully they didn't beat you. If they beat you so bad you had to go to the hospital, that was one scenario. The other one was you went to the morgue. Better than that, you might be able to go home with some bumps and bruises. In a time where that was the norm, that was the norm for a person, a man or woman who was not straight. They could expect that. That was the reasonable expectation. This particular character, and please, if anybody knows that this man's name, because I'm not going to Google it while I'm doing this, but if anybody knows that man's name, let me know. Like I said, he plays this character amazingly. The reason that's important to me is because the other documentary that I'd watched, and if you were watching last week, you know, I was talking about Roy Cohn, who, if you are paying attention again to anything that's happening right now, Roy Cohn was a good friend of the dude that's in the White House, and that is he basically rubbed off on him in that type of way, smooth like that. So you can see how their person, like Donald Trump and Roy Cohn, kind of became the same person. One second. Donald Trump and Roy Cohn basically became the same person. Donald Trump adopted his way of manipulating the media, his way of manipulating the press, his way of manipulating people, his way of getting people to do things with denial and always claiming to be the victor. You can see all of that. You can see all of that, but that's not my point. My point is that type of, what do you call it? Repression. It's called Hollywood, Tamara, and it's a series on Netflix. I think, did we talk about it? I don't think we got to that. Yeah. Now, first of all, Hollywood is the one that's on Netflix. But if you're going to watch Hollywood, you want to watch the documentary that is on Amazon Prime, Scotty Bowers. And if you want to take it further and see what I'm talking about with Roy Cohn, I think is either on Stars or Amazon Prime, I believe. But you can Google it and see if it's available on a platform. It might cost you $1 or $2, but this is really interesting information, and you want to see it because it really has amazing historical presence. It really is playing out today. But again, none of that is my point. It's just very interesting to me. The point that I'm making, and I know I take the this is why my podcast is like an hour, because I'm trying to give you the context of trying to give you the context as I'm trying to get to the point. So the character played by the Sheldon guy from The Big Bang Theory on Hollywood on Netflix, and Roy Cohn, both of these men grew up in a time where they could not do the thing that they really, really wanted to do, which was just be loved. They wanted to love the people that they were attracted to. They wanted to have that type of life. Both of these men had and again, I'm only going by what was told through these films. Both of these men had oddly oppressive mothers, to the point where, you know, they made mention of it in these they made mention of it, which I think. Now, here's why, if you were watching from the beginning, why I said you would hate me. Because to me, there's a fine line between blaming and giving responsibility. It's a very fine line. Because, as I said in the beginning, real power, which is what we're talking about, please keep that. I'm always going to come back to that throughout the situation. Real power begins at the beginning. At the beginning, whoever is watching this, your very beginning began when you came from your mother, when you came from the womb. The first person to have access to you is your mother. Your first teacher is your mother. Your first influence is your mother if there is a father in the home. If the father stayed around. We have all those ifs. We can even assume still. Let's assume he was right there. Because there are plenty of people who are wonderful. We're not going to assume a stereotype. Even if he's there, there is still a connection that every person has with their mother that is unparalleled to any other human being. Except unless that person has a kid. Can't recreate that. You can't mimic it anywhere. And that is real power. Now, why I say there is a fine line between giving responsibility and blaming in this particular situation is because I don't think that women in our society see past the veil of what the narrative is that men feed them, because men don't have any power when it really comes to anything. Every man that every woman watching this broadcast knows, with the exception of a few, is trying to get something from a woman in his life. And almost every man is going to spend a significant amount of time, if not his entire life, searching from that thing from a woman. And I'm not just talking about sex. I'm not just talking about sex. I'm talking about companionship, friendship. I'm talking about the nurturing relationships. I'm talking about the yin to the yang. I'm talking about that. Because that is there. Hey, Yvette. It began when we come from our mothers. And for most men, throughout their lives, it continues until you find that mate. Hey, Shay. That is power. I hope y'all are following me. If y'all are following me, I need to see something over here in the corner going up. I need to see a smiley face, thumbs up, a heart, laugh, cry, hate me, something. Show me if you understand what it is I am saying. If you understand that power, please let me know. I didn't think so. I must be on here by myself. And you know how I know that? Thank you, Nunu. I know that many of you are missing this point because I can it's shown in the way that you live. It's shown in the way that women are treated in this society. There's no way that any man should be dictating anything to you about your body. You can't. Every man on this planet came out of the same type of body that they are trying to tell you what to do with. How is that even possible? Here's something that a friend of mine, oh, she's right in here, Nunu. Bang. Point this, I need to run with me on this real quick. How do women still let men call them a minority? Is what I would like to know. How do men still control that narrative? How do men still control that narrative? How do you let them when they come out of your body? Yeah. I told this story a couple of months ago when I was doing a show, and it bears repeating for this particular conversation. Hey, Priscilla. It bears repeating in this particular context simply because I really need all of you to understand your power. I was at my cousin's 40th birthday party, and one of her friends, this beautiful young woman, I mean, she was honestly breathtaking. Dark skin, beautiful hair, beautiful smile. And she had on a very thin. Her dress was a very thin material. I don't know what material it was. It was a very thin material, and usually throughout my life, and I've worked in theater. So I'm used to seeing women change in front of me. I got 4 sisters. I got like 12, 13 ounce. I'm used to seeing women and seeing them get dressed and know what it is that they put on to make themselves look good in their clothing. Yeah, Shay, it's been too long. We're going to get with that. And so I'm used to seeing women put on Spanx, body shapers, cinching situations to get the waist together. I'm used to seeing the real spandex things to hold everything in place. And I know that sometimes you guys feel uncomfortable because your body changes. And let me write something down because I do not want to forget this point. Something a friend of mine said the other day. So I'll come back to that. But this young woman didn't have on one. Very thin material. And she had at least one child that I know of. So she had on this thin material, and I looked at her body. And I noticed that you could see her, her curves and everything. And, she had a little tummy and, like that. And so what? But I'm looking at her and my first thought, how conditioned. My first thought was, wow, she doesn't have on any Spanx or anything. My immediate second thought was, good. Because she's beautiful just like that. And nobody should have to feel like they need to put on something to hide their body. Everything that we put on, all of these clothing that I'm sitting here pulling at and everything like that, there's hundreds of thousands of these made. And I saw this meme today that was just so true. And the person, whoever wrote the meme, they said, I was always fascinated looking at naked bodies because there's only one way to wear a body. Your body is only going to be that one way that it is, no matter what you do to it. No matter, unless you add stuff over it or throw something on it. Your clothes, there's millions of ways but your body is just going to be that one unique thing. And that floored me today. Like, we get so hung up on, my body doesn't look like that. My body doesn't look like what they say it should look like. And women in particular, society as a whole, we shame you guys for no reason. We tell you have to paint your faces. We tell you some of you guys are going crazy right now because you can't add hair to your hair or can't. Me too, my beard gray, but separate issue. The fingernails, the paint, everything. The Spanx, the body shapers, all of this for what? There's no man who cares that much when it comes down to it. I said man. I'm not going to even explain that. If you need an explanation of man, you shouldn't be dating. So make sure first that you're dating a man. And then you won't have those other issues with the body situation. Because the other day in the ImRealDvs, the meme group, the funny thing, if you're in there, good. If you're not, get yourself together. But the other day I put up a post and it was somebody had, it was a stencil drawing of a woman, and she was a full-figured, thick, with real curves woman that they had stenciled. And it said, I forget the exact words, it said something like, how many guys would tell her she's just fine the way she is, and how many of you would say that she needs to tone up? And almost every guy was like, she's just fine just the way she is. And one of the women came in there and she was like, oh my goodness, you guys are making me feel so good right now. And I had to go in there. I was like, I ain't even a chick, but y'all are making me feel good right now. So if you need that type of encouragement, if you need that type of edification, please know that there's nothing you need to do. Everything you are is just fine that way. And please, you need to take back that power. You need to take back that power. Another friend of mine, I love my friends. Another friend of mine said something, again, in regard to these If you're just joining us, peace, peace, peace. What's up, everybody? Hey, Shavar. I probably need to call you. Yeah. But we were talking about the series Hollywood on Netflix and how it is a reimagining of what happened in the Scotty Bowers documentary, which is on Amazon Prime. And if you think those are interesting, you really need to get into Roy Cohn. And if you like the Roy Cohn one, I think that's also on Amazon Prime. And if you like the Roy Cohn one, make sure that you watch Angels in America. That'll give you at least 2 full days of viewing. At least 2 full days, because it's not going to take you all 2 full days to watch. Hollywood is about 7 episodes at about an hour apiece. And what was the other series? Angels in America is about 6 episodes at an hour apiece. And both of the documentaries are about an hour and a half. So that's about 15 hours broken up over 2 days. But you're going to be so amazing when to talk about it with your friends that it's going to take you both days. I'm telling you. So do that. But what my friend said in regard to after he saw Hollywood, and we were talking about the character, the guy, and I apologize that I don't know this man's name. It's going to come to me later, and I'm going to be embarrassed that I didn't know it for this whole episode, but c'est la vie. The repression is what made this man so vicious. Just like, and he was this was a real person. Every male client that they showed in the movie, and they talked about it in the documentary as well, he had to give them fellatio. That was a requirement. Straight, gay, it didn't matter. This is what is going to happen. Tamara said, for me, it wasn't taught. My power went on for years, not knowing. I seeked it though and found it through trial and error. You better. Okay, remind me, Shay. You better do some trial and error, because if not, if you don't do trial and error, you'll end up in a very, very horrible situation. But I was at the point of, and for me, it was an epiphany about the repression, because again, after watching Roy Cohn and after watching this man who was a real character reimagined in this movie, but nonetheless, a lot of the atrocities that he committed were accurately portrayed or alluded to in the series. Evil. But again, you have a homosexual man who can't love who he wants to love in a time where if he even looks at another man or gets they alluded to this in the movie, so I'm not trying to be vulgar or give you imagery that isn't, already in your head. But if they had these things called molly houses, and the molly houses was basically where a whorehouse for men. It was for gay men, or a place of ill repute. I won't say a whorehouse, because it probably could have been like a little lounge type thing, and men could adjourn if they wanted to do that type of thing. But they called them molly houses nonetheless. So in one scene, he says to his client, he says, and don't get caught going into molly houses with a heart on. Because there were these things called vice squads. Growing up as a kid, I heard vice squads. I just thought it was a really cool name. It never dawned on me that's a literal, and maybe I'm silly and slow, or, all flowers don't bloom at the same time. I just really did. Sheldon is Jim Parsons. Thank you, Nunu. That's my Emily. Hey, Babu. Peace. I hope you all are well over there. I hope you all are doing well and staying safe. Love to you. Thank you. Jim Parsons' character is so hideously repressed. And he tells this horrible story about when he was young and he was in love, and the man that he loved was killed. And he has this obsession with, beautiful young men. And so that's what he does. He humiliates them and degrades them, all in an effort to feel better. And he said growing up, he knew he would never be one of them. And when he finally had one of them who was interested in him, he thought he had the world. And then it seemed like the world took that same thing away from him. And when you look at people who, again, actually existed, like Roy Cohn, same type of thing. Roy Cohn was a gay Jewish man back in, the what was it, the 40s, 50s? Watergate was in the 70s. This was the 60s. Late 50s, early 60s, I think it was. You still have those laws in place where if it's found out you're a homosexual, he can go to jail. And Roy Cohn came from a very prominent family. They had money, they had power, they had respect. So anything that he did along that lines was sort of an embarrassment. He wasn't a popular young man. He wasn't an athletic young man. He wasn't a good-looking young man, according to, people from that time. They didn't view him as such. So you take all of that and you push it down. And you push it down. And you push it down. And when it finally builds back up, it's so powerful. And if it is misdirected, it will destroy everything in its path. And that is what these two men did. They destroyed everybody that they came in contact with. And again, what does this have to do with power? Because the person with the first real power in their lives destroyed them. Again, that fine line between blame and giving responsibility. Because it was their mother's responsibility to make sure they were safe. But think of this, and how far do we really want to go down this rabbit hole? Because it can, layer itself into infinity. Because you have the young gay men who were not protected by their mothers, or in society. But you have their mothers who are brainwashed by society. You have society who is ruled by these men. Many of these men probably also had these same situations going on. So at the same time, what you have is, and Roy Cohn did this with the McCarthy hearings, and it was a very blatant example of it. Because he was Jewish, not the McCarthy hearings, what is her name? The Rosenberg trial. My apologies. What's up, Rohan? Daisha, Babu. With the Rosenberg trial. He prosecuted Ethel Rosenberg and her husband. He prosecuted them as traitors. During peacetime, mind you, and sought the death penalty. Ex parte spoke to the judge every day in a phone booth across the street from the courthouse. Was in the judge's ear to get the judge to push the death penalty, which he did, and put both of them to death. All in an effort to not appear to be what he was. Why would you want to do that? Who protected him and told him that he could be what he was? Absolutely nobody. So, for those of you who've been watching from the beginning, you remember I said something about what my friend told me. And that's what led to this whole line of this whole thought, this whole tangent of thought. What he said was basically what I've been saying, and that is that women have that power and they don't use it. Many. And this is not an indictment of all, obviously, but in the greater society, you cannot take power from somebody you cannot assume power in a position where somebody still calls you a minority. You all are the majority everywhere, except male prisons, probably. You all have to change the narrative. You must be heard because you are the most powerful things here. It is not time for you to sit idly by. It really never has been. But history has to go through its process. We have to do what we have to do. And that is why I'm saying to you now, it is time for you to speak for yourselves. There is no time that a man should have a narrative over your body when a man came from your body. That just doesn't make sense. And the fact that it's allowed, that there are people that you can go on with your day. And this is a whole other, like, again, this whole rabbit hole you can continue to fall down the rabbit hole, because when you talk about, you have to change the paradigm shift. Look at the biggest paradigm shift that's happening all across the world right now. Most of the, not most of the stuff, but a lot of the things that we believed and that we reacted to, we had feelings, we had emotions about these things. We've completely did a 180 and we're here now. 525,600 minutes ago, if you were walking past someone on the street on a nice regular day and they had on a mask, you would look at them strange. You would probably be a little afraid. And now it's the exact opposite. You outside and somebody walks past you and they don't have a mask, and you get a little anxiety. You're like, oh my goodness. You pull your mask a little bit closer if you have one on. Make sure your gloves are already cinched up. That's a whole paradigm shift for the world. And there are more to list, and there will be more to come. So while we are in the process, I will charge you, ladies and gentlemen, because you're going to have to be part of that process. Give it up. Turn it loose. It ain't going to hurt. Let women have control over their bodies. Let women teach us something. I'm going to say that. I think there are some things we can learn from them. There's definitely some things that they can learn from each other. Because men have been doing it all this time, and this is where we are. And a friend of mine, and I'm going to end with this, because there's not a whole lot more you can say about it. There's just a whole lot to do, and I hope y'all are ready. A friend of mine, I'm going to put him on blast, because I love his daughter. His daughter, when I was doing my show, sometimes you can get so disheartened doing this. You see very few people join you. You see very few people who share your video. You have very few people who even like it. If they're watching it, you sitting there having a whole conversation about something that you thought about, you talked to other people about, you did some research on, you prepared, you don't watch movies and documentaries, and you don't get, you have an expectation, but that's my fault. I shouldn't have expectations, because I am just really here to chat at this time. But, it can be disheartening sometimes. So my friend that I'm talking about, he has a young daughter. She's 2 or 3 now, maybe 4. And she used to watch my show. And he said that, like, every time I was supposed to come on, like, she would come and she heard my voice. Like, he would be watching and she heard my voice and she would come and watch it. And I just thought that was like, at that point, if none of you came in here, if she was in here, I was all right. Forget y'all. I would look, if she here, I would told that I ain't gonna cuss. I would, keep it as clear as possible, because that, to me, that was just, oh my God, that just wore me out. So my dude, and this is how far me and this dude go back. Like, I was his boss when I was like 19, almost 30 years ago. Like, I was his boss. And now his baby daughter is watching me do this. Like, I love this. If I died tomorrow, listen, I had a wonderful time. Just know I'm going out the same way I came, bloody and screaming. I'm kidding. But my man Abdul Covington, when I posted the drawing, the sketch of the full-figured woman with the question, fellas, would you tell her that she looks just fine, or would you tell her that she has to tone up? I love this man. He commented, I'm the one that made her body look like that. So how do I have any right to feel any way about it? I love it. It's what brought my kids here. That's what he said. And I was like, wow. Yeah. Because he finally, he get it. And it's not that he's the only one. He's just the one that I'm using as an example. Hey, cousin. He's just the one that I'm using as an example. It's many guys who get it. And I charge all of the men who watch, make one of your boys get it, because every last one of y'all got a boy who don't get it. You put up with him. You tolerate him. He's probably otherwise a really nice dude, but you know he don't get it. He say messed up stuff about women. He treat them crazy. You know which one. Every time he talk about a woman, your face frown up. You be looking like, man, why are you even talking to people? Like, you should be barred from talking to people. Where's your home health aide? Him. Change his mind. We all have to start changing our minds about a lot of stuff. Hey, oh, I thought you were somebody. That's what happens when you. I was getting ready to say something. I'm gonna mess with Tamara. I thought you were another friend of mine, Tamara. Real quick, I just saw the first name, so thought it was somebody else coming in here, and I was about to yell at her. But I appreciate you being here, so I ain't gonna talk about you. I love you to death. You know you are. Well, so I'm about to get out of here. Again, I want to say happy birthday, Erica. Happy, much love to the Davis family. I'm gonna shout all of them out because they're out there in the streets doing their thing. I love them. Not literally, but you know. My girl Omi Sonia, happy birthday. And condolences to everybody. I'm gonna just say condolences to everybody who lost someone right now. Please stay safe. Please stay safe. Regardless of what you think. If you don't think that this is a virus still, there are other people that do, and wear your mask anyway. And it's not for even if you don't think that there's a virus or something like that, wear your mask so that you don't give somebody an anxiety attack walking past them, and you know you don't have a mask on. So I'm going to get out of here. I thank you for watching. I will put it up on YouTube. So I'm going to ask everybody to share the video. I appreciate every last one of y'all. I love y'all for watching. I thank you for listening. Hey, Priscilla, what's going on? I love you too. It's good to see every last one of y'all. I hope you guys are staying safe. I just didn't want to miss anybody. That's all I saw. I was just scrolling back through. So I hope you guys are staying safe. Please, and last but not least, I'm going to say this like for real and get out of here. If you have children or grandchildren that you take care of and you have to take them out in society and the world, put masks on the kids too. I've seen too many people with masks on and they have a little one with them and the kid has no mask or is running around. I don't care what the kid wants. I'm not interested in how the kid feels about it. Young kids, sometimes their immune systems are a little not fully developed and stuff like that. Even if they're older than 6 months or whatever, still just, put a mask on the kid because it's even still. We should have been doing this a long time ago because people are germy. So I'm out of here. I am DVS Ahmad. As y'all trip out here walking through this road we call life, if you should happen to stumble and fall, remember that the harder you bounce, the harder you fall, the higher you bounce. Oh, I did mess that up. It's the harder you fall, the higher you bounce. Remember that when you're tripping. DVS Ahmad, and I will see you right here again next Tuesday. So